have to keep it. Welcome to the Knucklehead Chronicles podcast. And what's going on, man? Welcome. I want to welcome everyone to this episode of the Knucklehead Chronicles podcast. This is, my name is Terry, as you can see in one of the corners here. This is the Cancer Chronicles, and I am rebooting my podcast because I'm bored and I don't have anything else better to do. So, no, I do have better things to do, like sleep. But anyway, I'm rebooting my podcast because I was dealt a pretty stiff diagnosis, and a lot of people are going to ask me, Terry, why are you doing this? What is this about? And the reason why I am rebranding my podcast is because I want to be able to help someone who is possibly going through the same thing, or I have a loved one that's going through the same thing. So those of you who have not heard or have not seen this particular or heard my story at all, this is my purpose. This is my purpose. I believe this is my purpose, to sit here behind my mic and behind my computer screens and try to give you guys a little bit of a story time. So let me get into it. Now, those of you guys, I'm a man of a certain age. I'm 49 years old, right? So of course, being 49 and being a Black man, we struggle with certain health issues, diabetes, prostate cancer, things of this nature. Diabetes is one of the biggest killers of African American men across this country. And so, those of you who watch me, who have watched me, know my story. I went through a divorce last year. So 2024 was a rough year. I went through a divorce. I had not a health scare, but my diabetes, my sugar had gotten really high. I didn't know how to control it. And so I started losing a bunch of weight. I started urinating a lot, and I was having a bunch of issues, right? So I went through that. That was the early part of 24. So go through the year. I'm already dealing with mental health. I'm dealing with, my divorce and that not being, it really took a toll on me. So I was like, okay, I need to figure this out. Right. So let's say September of 2024, maybe October. I started feeling, just kind of bad, just kind of, sick and things of this nature, and a lot of abdominal pain, things of this nature. So the first thing I would say to people is that if you do not ignore your body, right? If your body is telling you, or you're feeling a certain way about something, go be seen. Excuse me. Go to the doctor. And so, I kind of ignored it. I just figured it was my diabetes doing I thought my diabetes had spent the block on me and came back. So I really ignored it this much. I wasn't taking any insulin. I was taking, the only thing that I was taking for my diabetes at the time was metformin. So of course, anybody that's a conspiracy theorist know that metformin is bad for African American men or people in general, right? So I really didn't think I didn't think anything of the diabetes. I just kind of just went my business. But it got too bad, October, November, it really got bad. So I ended up going to work one day. As those of you that again who follow me know that I was a CO at a prison, and I went into work one day and I went to see the employee health nurse because my vitals were all over the place and all that. And so I go see her, and she says, "Hey, you don't look very well." I was sweating. I think I had turned yellow. A lot of my you turn yellow, it's a jaundice issue, liver issue, this and that. And so she was like, "Hey, I need for you to go to the doctor. I need for you to go to the ER." Now, the last time she told me that, you know, I came home, I got into bed, and I was okay the next day, right? Didn't think anything of it. Um, so I ended up that particular day. I'm glad I listened to her because that day I went to the ER and in the next city over, and they did a they did my blood work. That's the first thing you do when you go to the ER, do your blood work. And I guess my numbers weren't looking the way it's supposed to be looking. So they did a CT scan on me. They wheeled me downstairs. I got into the big machine, no biggie, right? Again, I'm planning it off in my head. I'm thinking that's because it's my diabetes acting up. My sugar's not where it's supposed to be. And so, um, they wheeled me back up to to the ER room that I was in. Uh, the ER doc came in about 30 minutes later, and she says, "Hey, your numbers aren't looking the way we want them to look. There's a number called the bilirubin that has something to do with your liver or pancreas output or what have you." But she came back in and she says, "Mr. Little, uh, we see a mass on your pancreas. It's at the head of your pancreas. Some masses are in the tail of the pancreas, other masses are in the head. Um, but the good news is it hadn't spread anywhere. It hadn't been metastasized to anything. So it was just in the head of my pancreas." So after she says that, about 10 minutes later, she says, "Hey, we don't have an oncologist here. We need to transfer you to the next biggest city, which is Columbia. And Columbia has the University of Missouri, uh, the whole health system there." So next thing I know, uniform on, everything. They put me in the back of an ambulance and transferred me to from Jefferson City to Columbia. And so I get to Columbia, and I get there about 10:30, 11 o'clock. And this is the week of Christmas Eve, Christmas. And so they wheel me into my room, and they wheel me down for another CT scan just to get just to get a confirmation. And they did that. My blood sugar was somewhere between 550, 600. I mean, I could have went into a coma, but I didn't. Thank God for that. So I go, have a CT. I come back to my room. The next morning, this was Christmas Eve. The next morning, the doctor comes in, and really cool doctors. And he came in and he said, "Mr. Little, um, you have stage 3 adenocarcinoma. I think that's what it's called." And to get that kind of news on Christmas Eve was like, wow, what? Like you couldn't come in and you couldn't say Merry Christmas, nothing. You know what I'm saying? Or Happy Holidays or whatever it is. I got what? I got stage 3 adenocarcinoma, uh, pancreatic cancer. When I tell you that my life flashed before my eyes, because I got a son. I got a 7-year-old son who's going to be 8 here pretty soon. Um, I got grandkids. I got 2 grown daughters. You know, 3 or 4 stepkids that love me, and that was a hard pill to swallow. It really was. And so, a lot of the people that I work with, they came and they rallied around me, and my ex-wife, she came, she supported me, and she held my hand, and she was my advocate. Um, so going through that Christmas time, I was never really big on Christmas anyway, but Christmas really will have a uh, different annotation for me now. I have a different, I have a different outlook on the holiday season um, from now on. So, so of course, everybody's panicking, and I'm in shock, and I stayed in shock for the longest. And I think I'm still in shock some days, but living knowing that I have this particular cancer uh, is really tough. So everybody, talking chemo, and you gotta have surgery. I gotta I gotta get a port put in, which I wear. if you look, as a scar on my neck here. That's where they put it into my jugular, and then I have a little pieces right here, to where when I go in to do blood work, I just pop it into my chest instead of trying to get a vein. You just pop it into my chest and get my blood work from there, which hurts. So that my first biggest thing was the port placement, and I was like, "What's going on here?" And so I meet with the surgeon, um, and surgeons have no bedside manner at all. I've never met a surgeon that had a good bedside manner. Everybody was they stayed to the point, and he was like, "Hey, my man, like you can do chemo, but it's not going to shrink because the mass had what they call a vein involvement. So I have as a vein that runs through the pancreas. If that mass is around that vein, they can't go in and do surgery. So the mass that I have is inoperable now. Um, so I'm living with this cancer and I can't get surgery. And I got to go through chemo. So I get my port placement, and I got my port placed like way early. Like, it was like I didn't have my first chemo session for another month after I got my port placed. Um, so the waiting was hard because I can't sleep on my side where the port is because it hurts. To be honest with you, um, it's a really hard place. It's a really hard place, and I'm like, okay, what am I doing? What's going on? Why is this happening to me? Um, I look back over my life and I done some crazy stuff. I lived a crazy life. I mean, I didn't do any drugs or anything like that, but I smoked cigarettes for years, and um, I gotta tell you guys that, and if you're watching this, and if you're listening to what I'm telling you, um, it's scary. It's scary for me, but I got a pretty good support system. Nobody's left me hanging yet, so it's all good. My ex-wife, she goes to my chemo sessions with me. She doesn't really have to, um, because of obligations. And obligations aren't with me; they're with, the kids and her life and everything. And that's cool. And I appreciate her for being there. Um, and everybody else, shout out to my classmates, Sarissa Borden and all those guys. Shout out to y'all. Every she started not a GoFundMe, but she put it out in our high school class group. Hey, y'all donate to this man. He's going through a lot. Da, 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 da. And so everybody came through the support. So support is very important, especially when you're going through something like this. Because if you feel like you're going through this by yourself, it really gets tough, and it really drains the mental. And if you're already struggling with mental, it makes it worse. And I'm that guy that I struggle with my mental sometimes because the loss of my wife. I mean, my divorce was hard on me last year. I mean, so I still struggle with that. So it's not like it's not like you know, I'm walking this thing out and I'm all good. I'm not. I'm not. And and people say all the time, it's okay to not. It's okay to not be okay. And that's probably the truest thing that is anyone's ever said. So going into chemo, I had to, having a support system in place, having different visits to the doctor, oncologists, dietitians, everybody that you can possibly want to talk to in a time like that, you're gonna talk to them. You're gonna be in their face, you know. So, um, my first round of chemo, and I gotta tell you, going into chemo, that season was really, really, really hard because I was really, really, really scared. Right. So you go before you start stuff like that. You go into I wouldn't say panic mode. It's almost like, okay, what am I getting myself into? Um, because some people they choose not to do chemo because they don't want it to change their quality of life. And I said, well, and I almost did that. I almost got to the point where I'm not going to do chemo. And I'm just going to enjoy the rest of my life and how much time I got left, right? And then I was like, you know what? Nah, I'm gonna have to fight this a little bit, right? So I decided to do chemo. Um, my first round of chemo wasn't as bad as everybody made it seem. Because, if you ask 10 different people about chemo, you're gonna get 10 different answers because chemo affects everyone differently. Some people, they have a weak immune system, chemo hits them, and it's just like they go downhill, right? Now, at 49, I'm not the healthiest guy on the planet, but um, I am a little bit strong. And so my first round of chemo was okay, this isn't as bad. So, how my chemo sessions work is I have an infusion, right? I am on Florinox. So I have an infusion. I have my infusion day, which is on a Friday. I sit in an infusion chair for maybe 3 or 4 hours, maybe because one medication that they put in me takes about 90 minutes. The other one takes about 60 or so minutes, maybe a little bit more. And they put the port into my uh, they put the drugs through my port, and so I sit in an infusion chair. Um, and then after I get done with my infusion, they deaccess my port. Not that they don't deaccess it. They actually change everything over, and I wear a fanny pack that has the actual chemo drug in a big old ball, and I wear that in a fanny pack 2 days. So I get infused on Friday. I wear the fanny pack Saturday and Sunday, and then I get the access to my port on Sunday. So my first round, not bad. Didn't really have any effects. I was still eating, drinking, like normal. I think the worst effect that I had after my first round of chemo was sensitivity to cold. So it's a term. I think it's called neuropathy. Is what it's called, and you get certain sensations in your fingers and your toes, and you kind of want to keep an eye on that because if it gets too bad, they stop your chemo because they have to downsize your medication because you shouldn't be getting those feelings. So the first round, I did not have that. I think I had a little bit of sensitivity as I drank something cold. It felt like I was swallowing razor blades or shards of glass, which is really painful. So if you are a chemo patient, a survivor of chemo, whatever, and you know what I'm talking about, it feels like shards of glass you're swallowing. So I have to drink everything at room temperature. So I can have drinks, I can have water, soda, whatever. I try to lay off the soda. But water, juice, anything like that. I can have those things, but they have to be at room temperature. I can't drink anything straight out of the refrigerator. I can't even go into the freezer and touch anything in there without gloves on because of sensitivity. So I didn't really, again, I'm going through my thing and I'm like, all right, cool. Um, so the first round was cool. Second round was a little different. The neuropathy was way worse the second time. Um, the second time around because the tingling was really really bad. And I had gloves, right? But when I got done with my second round of chemo, it felt like I was being cut in my fingers, right? And it was a cold day, here in Missouri. It was that day was cold, but I couldn't even. I left the infusion and I got in my car to get ready to leave, and I couldn't even touch my steering wheel. That's how bad it was, as far as my neuropathy was concerned. And then it moved to my toes, and that was really bad. So, you know, going through chemo and all of that, it was really tough. I'm really fatigued a lot, so I have to stay busy and do things and walk and exercise and all that stuff. And it was really hard, little brother, and it's really hard for me. Um, but I said all of that in this episode tonight to tell you this is to be encouraged. And and I'm not just talking to the people that are watching. I'm talking to me. This encourages me as well because I do have my days where I battle with depression and I battle with my mental health. I battle with that every single day. Um, so I'm not sitting here in front of this camera like I am just the most perfect guy on the planet because I'm not. I am absolutely not. and I struggle. But I want to walk. I want to take this journey. I want you guys to take this journey with me to encourage me and to also encourage you because when people who support cancer patients and when they say you are not walking this alone, they mean that. Um, and so I want you to know, I want you to look me in my eyes when I say this, is that I am in this race with you. I'm right along, I'm in that boat right along with you, paddling right beside you, and we're gonna get through this. And so I want to thank you guys for listening. Listen, if I said anything in this podcast episode that you enjoyed, that made any sense, and you want to follow along in the journey, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Um, and the link, if you're watching me on TikTok, I appreciate you. Um, uh, I'm trying to put this kind of like everywhere. So I want you guys to be encouraged. Remember that we are all one race, the human race. And when I say that I love you, I don't even know you, but I want to tell you that I love you. And we're going to get through this together. Um, so until the next episode, you guys have a wonderful, wonderful evening. And I will see you next time around.